Today, I'd like to focus on the first reading and then I'll talk about the gospel. The first reading comes from the book of Wisdom, and it says that God did not intend for all of us to die. He intended for us to have everlasting life, but yet the devil brought death. So, how did he bring death to us? Well, if you remember in the book of Genesis, it speaks of Adam and Eve, both who were to live forever. But both of them were tempted by the devil, followed him, and became disconnected from God, and they experienced death. So, why did they die if they came from God? God lives and reigns forever. Adam and Eve were with him and then became separated from him and did not live and experience death. Well, here's another way we can look at it. We can compare our life to a laptop computer. I know what you're thinking. A laptop computer, what are you talking about? Well, think about it. A laptop, when you open it up, turns on, and it runs, but it depends on a battery. But does that battery last forever? No, of course not. We keep that battery alive by recharging it, meaning we plug it in. And when we plug it in, the battery recharges and the computer continues to work. But if we unplug it, the battery will still run the computer for a while before it depletes and eventually dies. And then it has to be plugged back in again. We can look at Adam and Eve in the same way. They unplugged from God. So they lived for a while until their proverbial battery ran out and then they died. And it's the same with us. We can't continue to live forever. Our batteries will eventually run out. But we're quite fortunate because God just doesn't say, oh, well, that's too bad for you. When you die, that's it. He still wants us to live forever with him. He sent his son, Jesus, who suffered and died for us. And then he rose again, giving us everlasting life. And Jesus promised all of us that at the end of days, or the end of the world, he would call all the dead back to life again and would raise them up from the dead. Now, in today's gospel, it shows an example of that, where yes, Jesus did raise people from the dead. The little girl that it speaks of. But she's not the only one that he raised from the dead. There are other stories in the Bible that talk about Jesus raising people from the dead. For example, Lazarus, the widow's son. So, Jesus has already risen. He's opened heaven for us, and he will come to call us all. But unfortunately, some people won't enter heaven because they're not connected or plugged into God. So it's important that if we want to live forever, that we need to have a relationship with God. We need to try and avoid sin. And I know it's impossible to avoid sin altogether because we're weak and we get tempted. But we can go to confession and ask for forgiveness. And we can also keep that relationship with Jesus through the Eucharist. Jesus gives us everlasting life and sustains us. And we need to be with him so that we can eventually meet with him and live forever. Thank you, and God bless you.